All right, welcome back. Here we are. Hope you guys are doing okay. Going to start this out like we have been normally with a question. Of course, I'll ask it and then we'll discuss it at the end of the episode. But are you ready for this? It's a little bit. It's kind of a darker question. So, okay. So, what was your biggest fear as a child?
All right.
What was your biggest childhood fear?
Think about that. All right.
Yeah. All right. See you on the other end here.
Yes. Your local video store card.
A comic book in your back pocket.
Games with no tutorials.
Music you had to discover.
And drinking water straight from the hose.
These are the things us millennials remember fondly. We are the Jennings brothers.
Join us after the streetlights come on
as we race our bikes from the top of the hill
right down memory lane.
Exchange those quarters because this podcast takes tokens.
A tale of romance and reconciliation, set in the midst of man's ever-constant struggle to understand and tame Mother Nature. A group of storm chasers led by the brilliant and beautiful Joe, along with the bold and handsome Bill, work to find a way to better understand tornadoes and provide citizens with more efficient warning systems. Through the science and suspense, Joe and Bill begin to mend a failing marriage that neither thought could be repaired. That's right. We're talking about the 1996 classic Twister. Love this movie.
A true box office buster, too.
It was. It really was. It really was. And before we get into that, though, I do want to mention and welcome our guest today. One of my oldest friends, probably, I think we've been friends for at least, if not more, than 30 years. We've known each other. So none other than the drummer for the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, whatever. Their name is 80 and Out, cover band in Joplin, Missouri. Go see them if you're ever around that area. My friend Ian, how you doing, man?
Doing all right. Glad to be here.
Yeah, it's good to have you on the show.
Good introduction.
I knew that if we we're going to be, I knew if we we're going to be talking about Twister, that you were the guy that we needed to have on the show. Can you tell us how many times? Okay, so I know you've watched this movie a lot, but I remember one summer day. How many times did you watch this movie in a single day?
Oh, I don't remember how many times I watched it in a single. There was probably a couple times I've watched it twice in a day, but I will tell you that, okay, maybe for some younger listeners, maybe they don't quite understand, like, what it was like living in, like, the 80s or 90s.
VHS.
Whenever you did not have internet, you did not have cable, and you didn't have, like, you didn't have all these things if you didn't have TV or whatever, or if you have an antenna.
You didn't have 1,000 choices.
And there's like nothing to do. I had a Super Nintendo and a select amount of movies that you could watch. And then I got Twister, and you're bored in the summertime, and you're like, well, this is a good movie. I'm just going to watch it every day. So it's just like sometimes 2 days or 2 times a day. And so it was like that, and maybe Star Wars and Back to the Future, and but that was my movie of choice for 1 or 2 summers, and watched it every day. And I will tell you that at one point, I could probably have quoted the whole thing, and I knew exactly what was going to happen with like the music and everything. I could have told every single line in there. I probably could have done it, but I watched it for the first time in probably like 15 years. Maybe, I don't know.
Really?
Yeah, I hadn't seen it in like forever. and I just watched it, last night, So it was kind of like, yeah, I remember that.
Well, all right. So I'm going to run down just some kind of, I don't know if you want to call them highlights, but just some facts about the movie. So it was released. Derek, what was our blockbuster stipulations? It had to have been released the last week of April through August, right?
Yes.
Or through Labor Day or something like that, I think.
Yes. I think that's what it was.
Then it had to have made...
I think we were saying... Well, we kind of went all over the place on this, but I think we ended up at as long as it at least doubled or made like over $100 million after the budget, then it would qualify.
Okay, so this does.
By far.
By far. Released May 10th, 1996, so we checked that box. Got a runtime of 113 minutes, starring, of course, Helen Hunt and Bill Paxton. Had a budget of $92 million. Final total of what this thing made at the box office, $495.7 million. I'd say that's a blockbuster.
Whoa.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
How much did
$92 million. That's nothing to shake a stick at back in the day. That's a big budget for 96.
How much did
So
Titanic
did you know?
make? I know this is
know. I
coming
think
to
it
Rand off,
was.
because if
Titanic.
you think about it, Titanic was the very next year, and they were a huge blockbuster, and that was one of the higher grossing ones. I just was wanting to know, comparison wise, how big of a jump that was. So
I think it was the highest grossing movie of all time for
was.
a while. Okay, so Titanic had a budget of $200 million, which is a lot, and grossed worldwide $2.2 billion.
oh,
So I'd say
wow.
that's a blockbuster.
That's a blockbuster. Goodness. We're not gonna talk about Titanic today.
No. But for
Maybe
comparison,
I don't know. Yeah.
please don't, because I just wanted to know for numbers' sake.
I've seen it. My wife likes it. She loves it, and it's okay. But anyway, did you see in the credits that Michael Crichton, the author Michael Crichton, was one of the co-writers of this movie, of Twister?
yes,
Yeah, I had
stuck
no
out to
idea.
me.
Yeah, until I watched it again just this week. And then it was nominated for 2 Oscars. One was for Best Sound and one for Best Visual Effects, which...
I could see that.
Oh, yeah, for the time... Even today, rewatching this, like, the special effects look pretty good still. For being almost a 30-year-old movie, that's insane.
I mean, I watched it up in my media room, so I got like the big 80-inch screen going.
Yeah.
And at that size in digital, some of the special effects tend to artifact.
Do they?
They stand out, yeah. Like they stand out a little bit more, and I think that's the digital processing as opposed to watching it on film. You get a little separation between your digital effects and like practical effects. But with that said, yes, it still holds up pretty decently especially for digital effects from 1996.
Yeah.
Well, I will say
So
that
a couple. Yeah,
I will say that last night I watched it on VHS, and the special effects looked pretty good to me. So
I bet they did. In full screen glory.
yeah.
All 480.
I watched it on DVD. So, Dare, you said you watched it. Was it like streaming?
Streaming. Digital,
Okay,
yeah.
so we've 3 different ways that we watched this movie. So a couple fun facts I like to call about this. Tom Hanks was originally looked at to play the role of Bill.
I can't see it.
Oh, no. He couldn't either. He read the script and he told the producers, he said, I'm not the right person for this, but I know who is, because he'd worked with Bill Paxton in Apollo 13, and he directed them to Bill Paxton. And then during most of the filming, so it was sunny most of the time. They shot on location in Oklahoma. And it was sunny most of the time, so they had to use like high-powered lighting to contrast the sky and it ended up temporarily blinding Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt. Like it gave them like temporary retina damage from the lighting. And then this movie was it's also credited as being the first home DVD release in October of 1997.
I'm gonna back you up for a second.
Yeah.
So I got two things I want to interject there. Back to
Sure.
the Tom Hanks. So do
Yeah.
you know what he did instead of this movie?
Was it Saving Private Ryan?
No, That Thing You Do.
That's
choice.
a good movie.
That's a good choice.
That's a
Absolutely.
good, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We'll do that
And
sometime.
yeah.
Go ahead,
That
Ian.
thing you do, I've never seen that before. So.
Oh, really?
You
That's a
have to
good
check it
movie.
out. It is good.
Yeah, it's kind of a, what is it? Like about a doo-wop group from the 50s getting a record
60s.
deal.
I have
Yeah.
seen that. I'm sorry,
60s,
I have
yeah.
seen that.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a
And
fun
then
little movie.
their title song is the title of the movie, like their big song, that thing you do. So, yeah.
Yeah. And then it being filmed in Oklahoma, if you look at, what's the name of that town that the grandma's from, Ian?
Joaquin.
Or the
Waukeeta.
aunt. Yeah, Waukeeta. So they have a museum in Waukeeta, the Twister the Movie Museum.
Really?
Yes. And they built that house, just the exterior, I believe, for shooting the movie, and then crumbled it for that shot where it's destroyed, and then cleared it out so it doesn't stand anymore. But they have like a placard there commemorating it, which I thought was
That's
interesting.
awesome. I'll have to, if I'm ever driving through Oklahoma. I don't know. Do you know where either of you know where Waukeeta's at?
It's
Like,
just outside Oklahoma City to the
Okay.
west, I want to say.
Oh, that's right. Because I did read somewhere. I didn't have it in the notes, but I was reading when I was doing some like looking homework, I guess, for the episode.
Yeah.
That they did postpone production a little bit because the Oklahoma City bombing happened, and a bunch of the cast and crew went over there to Oklahoma City to help out with like disaster, or not disaster, but relief, or whatever. But the last thing I had was, you want to take a guess at what the tagline originally was for this movie?
Oh, that's a good
What
one.
was that?
We're not in Kansas anymore.
No, you're not going to believe this. It sucks. Was the tagline. And then they got wise, and they realized that that's probably not going to be great. If somebody doesn't like the movie, they're going to end up just ripping this thing to pieces.
I guarantee you, I haven't read it, but I guarantee there's a review out there that's titled "It Sucks."
Oh yeah. So yeah, those are kind of some fun facts, and I don't know. I kind of always like looking at stuff like that and reading those. It kind of makes the movies a little bit better, in my opinion. But so how about the soundtrack on this movie? Like,
Yeah,
you got
pretty
Van
solid.
Halen, Deep Purple, Eric Clapton. Had that Shania Twain song
Shania
that was
Twain,
really
yeah.
big. Yeah,
No
yeah.
one needs to know.
No one needs to know. That's right.
Yeah, and this is back in the day where you didn't have Spotify playlists and stuff like that, so you had to buy your music.
Yeah.
We would go and buy soundtracks specifically to get a compilation of great songs, and this is one that I know a lot of people had because it did have, like you said, like some Van Halen and the Shania Twain and just and things like that. So you go out and you buy these soundtracks and you would listen to the soundtrack to get a decent mix of music and hits all together in one place instead of having to go and buy like a bunch of different albums and switch out your CDs or whatever occasionally. But yeah, this is one of the ones I remember people having because of that.
Yeah, it was a good just mix, I thought, of music. I don't really remember much of the score. Was there much of a score in this? I don't.
Oh yeah.
There's like
There's
a
a
roaring
separate-
for this.
There's a separate. I don't know if it came with that album or not, but you can buy. I mean, you can go on YouTube and they have the full, like a whole CDs worth of just orchestrated music, film music that was with the film, in addition to the other music. So
Okay. Well,
but what was kind of funny about that is I was kind of looking at the soundtrack also again to kind of see, because I remember the music did have a good compilation of just different stuff, and it's just kind of funny that if you were to ask somebody some 90s music, like whenever I think of like 90s music or whatever, a lot of people don't really mention those specific songs. They might mention a few of those bands, but I wouldn't think hardly any of those songs except maybe Shania Twain or maybe a couple, I mean, Van Halen's deal on there. I was asking my guitar player because he plays a lot of Van Halen. I was like, you got to play Respect the Wind from Twister. And he's like, oh, that's like one of the worst ones. So anyway, I don't know, when people think of like some of those artists, it's like, is it like their best work? They wouldn't necessarily think, you wouldn't say, oh, from the Twister soundtrack, but they are good songs by those artists, but I wouldn't necessarily think of those as being the ones you would think of. So it's just interesting to me.
Yeah, I mean, looking at it here, like you said, you got Van Halen, you got that Shania Twain, you got even Goo Goo Dolls, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Stevie Nicks, Belly, Soul Asylum, Rusted Roots. I mean, all, like you said, I mean, it's mid-90s, so it's like
just bangers.
Peak 90s music, yeah.
Yeah, it was a good soundtrack.
You think that's part of what I think? Personally, I kind of think that that's part of what drove the popularity of the movie. It's not only just has like, I mean, if you think about the plot, it's really pretty simple. It's not like real complex, but it's like you have a decent paced action movie that has music that is eclectic for everybody at the time, that are the younger
Top
people
40.
that are going to go watch that movie. And I think that just helps push the popularity of it, having it resonate with everybody that's watching it.
Sure. Yep. So in the beginning scene of this movie, so it's back in like the 60s and the storm's raging outside and Joe's upstairs asleep and her dad's watching the TV, which I appreciated. Everybody else is asleep. He's still like got a shirt tucked in, he's got a hat on, he's sipping some coffee. I'm like, this is a man after my own heart.
He's a dad.
yeah.
He's a dad, that's right.
Yeah. And so the F5 tornado hits and they go out to the storm cellar and everything, which wasn't much of a storm cellar. You would think in Oklahoma that...
Oh, for the 60s.
Well, yeah, that's true, I guess. But man, that thing was pretty rickety.
It was probably a concrete bunker left over from like the 40s, like the nuclear bomb scare and all that.
Yeah. But I was actually watching this with Mindy, and there's the scene where, that whole scene. So they're in the cellar, the bunker, whatever, and the dog is wanting in. So her dad goes and opens up the door, lets the dog in, and then the tornado hits, and he's trying to hold the door, right? And he's like, I can't hold it, and then it takes him. He just flies off. Joe and her mother and the dog are fine at the back of the cellar.
Why did he have to hold the door?
If he just would have went to the back of the cellar, he would have survived.
That was in my notes. What was he thinking? Like, did he think he could hold back the tornado? Was he thinking?
No
I mean, he was armored up though. He had the button-down chute and everything, the coffee. He was ready to go. He thought he was super dad.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, I don't.
That's right.
But I mean, I guess we wouldn't have like her
tragic backstory
and her reason, to be chasing tornadoes or whatever. Yeah. But
it seemed like even as a kid though, she was like mesmerized with it more than anything. And then as an adult, that same like mesmerization. That's not the right
whatever.
word.
We'll say that's a word.
Yeah. She's mesmerized by it again.
Yeah. So I don't know. I kind of thought that like Mindy said it best. She's like, that just seems like such a pointless death. Because he just could have stood back there and just, who cares, the door flew off. Like, I mean, I get it. Like, he probably didn't know. Like, who's going to know that it's not going to suck everybody out of the cellar, I guess. But, I can...
We do now.
Yeah, well,
I guess maybe back then.
We know now. But, I don't know. I just thought that was kind of interesting.
Maybe they got her thinking about science, how much
Yeah.
pressure does it take to suck this much pressure to suck my dad out? Like how much suction is there? You know?
Yeah. It sucks. there's the tagline again. It sucks.
Maybe that's why they didn't go with it. They're like, it might be a little tasteless in the beginning.
Yeah. So here's the real question. I think that really I had to think about the entire movie. I kept getting hints at it, and I kept thinking about, could any of us really work on a regular basis with Dusty?
No.
You know what I'm talking about?
No.
This guy.
He's a
Get
bit
out of
much.
my face.
Although, I gotta wonder if watching him, and then watching, and then Philip Seymour Hoffman, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Philip Seymour Hoffman's career after this, and this is about the same time that we're introduced to Jack Black, right?
Yeah.
In Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if he saw what Jack Black was doing and was like, you know what, that guy does it better. I'm going to go this other direction now and then let him take off. I wonder how close Jack Black was to getting that part. Or was he just a little too young?
Maybe. So Philip Seymour Hoffman did take this role simply to get money to get him back to New York.
Nah, see?
Yeah. So
That's
there's
funny.
that. But the character, as annoying as he is, I think like he really does add a lot of like comic relief to the movie. Like I wouldn't want to hang out with this guy all day long. I don't think that I could. But like, so when I know like he grabs onto Melissa and is just like, he's like
In her face.
the suck zone. He's talking about all that.
You can see it, you can really feel it with a telephoto lens. You know?
I don't want to feel it.
Yeah. And there's that scene in the beginning when shame on Bill for leaving her with him. First of all,
He knew.
But yes, when he's looking at Dorothy, and you can see in the background, Dusty has a hold of Melissa's hand and he's like dragging her across the lawn or wherever, the field that they're in, and she's just like it's almost like she's just trying to get away from him.
And nobody came to her rescue. Nobody in that
nobody
team.
did.
Not a single person.
No, I think everybody there knows. They're just like, well, that's Dusty. It's almost like an
takes him off us
initiation
for a
thing.
little while.
Yeah.
I just like.
And then he's got.
Whenever they're like drinking those straws, and he's like, the suck zone, but that's not the. He's like, they're sucking on the straws. And he's like,
Yeah.
It's the moment when the twister sucks you up. And he starts sucking on those straws. It's just like he's like in his own little world,
Oh, he is.
Yeah.
The whole movie, he's in his world. Like, so how does he have the power on that bus to power all these TVs?
I know.
Like, he's driving, and he's got like music videos playing.
I know. I want
and
to
he's
know like
screaming out the window.
I want to know like where he got those. Does he have like videos? Does he have a whole collection of music video sets, or does he have like some specialized satellite uplink? Because I know that dial-up was not going to be fast enough to stream that stuff back then. So it's just kind of like
I imagine he was like an on the road like TV camera guy before this, and so he's got like a setup like you would have in like a TV camera van with like all the different like video cassette things and the array of TVs and all that. So that van's probably got like a dozen batteries in it and like running 3 alternators to keep them all charged up. But yeah, I imagine he was like a film or a TV cameraman, technical guy. Yeah.
Yeah, you're probably right. That makes sense.
man. But if you
that
look
would
inside
completely
the
make sense,
Barnburner bus, it's just like, what the heck? How do they put all those TVs stacked in there?
Yeah. They're going to be bolted in there or something. Like, I can't imagine, especially like they're with all that wind and everything, wherever they're going. And, I don't know. But so we've got that chase, like that first tornado they're chasing, and they're in Joe's Jeep truck, and they go into that ditch, which was a stupid idea. But it made me think, like, I'm watching this, and that's the first time, like, so we see the tornado, we see the destruction of it, and then we kind of start to lose a little bit of, I don't want to really pick this movie apart a ton, because it is a good movie, but, like, the who becomes the chaser in this movie? Is it the storm chasers or is it the tornadoes? Because it seems like the tornadoes like start to just kind of like become the villain and just decide to go after
for sure.
Yeah, absolutely is. Because it's like way off in that field, and it literally turns, heads towards the ditch, and then heads straight to them.
I felt like the tornado was made out to be almost a character. Like it's got a little growl to it, and then it turns its head. I gotta wonder watching it. Like, I'm not a meteorologist. I have absolutely no knowledge beyond what's told to me on the TV, watching the evening news, as far as like how weather patterns and everything work. But I gotta wonder like how accurate they are with their weather knowledge in this movie for the time and for now, rather.
Ian, you're shaking your head.
Well, my biggest thing is like with that, like what you were saying is the tornadoes being the villain. That I got the feeling that a lot of people kind of think that, kind of maybe thought after watching this that tornadoes are just gonna like drop out of nowhere and they're just gonna come after you if there's a storm coming. You know, it's just kind of like it. I think that it made maybe people more irrational about you know. Because I remember at the time, like, it's kind of like everybody thinking that every storm's going to have a tornado in it, when that's, like, not true. And it's just kind of like, I think it kind of made people maybe more paranoid that for at least a certain amount of time that oh, my gosh, I got to watch out for these things because they're going to chase me, you know, kind of like in the movie.
Well, it's like Joe. I mean, there's that one scene, and she's like, "You've never seen it. Miss this house and miss this house and then come after you." And Bill's like, "Gosh, Joe, do you think that's what it did? Like, you can't predict it." Which I thought that line was delivered pretty well, but
although throughout the movie they're constantly going, you know, there's a tornado coming from like over here, and then they just like they run to it. Somehow they're able to predict them a good half hour at least out and get to them. So
and
I don't know how much more early than with their warning system, but
right.
and they're staying on the ground for like 30 minutes. Like, how long does it take to get over there? Well, it takes I know they're more than like 15, 20 minutes away, and the tornado's still there hanging out, like
waiting for them.
Yeah, just waiting to chase them, you know.
It's like, okay, they're here. Now let's go. So they well, I guess maybe this was before that. I guess I forgot about Jonas, because they run into Jonas. Carrie, what's his last name? Is it Ellis?
Ellis?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I like him and stuff. He plays a good villain. But I like how Bill is telling Melissa about him. And he's like, "Oh, that's Jonas. You know, he was with us in school and this and that. He's in it for the money, not the science." Like, it's a terrible thing that somebody wants to make a living off of what they do. Right. You know, so he's the villain because maybe he's got a family. Like, you know, he wants to like pay the bills.
It's better than
you're not in it for the science.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
And then he's got that dot, or what? It's basically, it's Dorothy, you know, the thing with the sensors, and Bill's all mad about it. And I'm thinking, like, Bill, look at like what you have. How can you not at least have like a patent pending on this thing?
Right.
You know, I mean, is with as expensive as it is, like you would think anything scientific like that is going to have some patent on it, or have been filed for a patent or something.
Well,
but he's like, oh, you stole my idea, you know.
Well, all you did was write it down on paper. You just drew a little picture with a little. You probably just drew it on a notebook paper, like I'm gonna a thing with the sensors. He drew like a little square, like a little cylinder thing, and then put some little circles in the center of it, and just said, "These things are gonna fly into a tornado." And then he goes when he shows up in the movie, he shows like, "You have her? She's here?" And then it's like he was like not involved with the building process at all, and like
he's an absentee father.
Wife, yeah, his wife builds it, and then somehow his villain got the same idea. I'm guessing like he probably didn't patent it because it probably wasn't completely thought out all the way, and somebody else finished it. Maybe he finished it. You know.
Yeah.
He came up with the name. He wanted that got him really excited. He was like, "I'm good."
Yeah.
They were all drinking one night, and he's like, I bet we could build something like this. And there's like, you stole my
That
idea.
was the night. Yeah, that was the night when he became the extreme, right?
Yeah.
Which the extreme would have made. That would make one hell of a prequel right there to see that as a movie. And then it just ends with that scene.
Yeah. Maybe if Bill Paxton was still alive, maybe they could have made that instead of like the sequel that's going to be releasing. I guess
the sequel
the week that this is airing
is like Dust Devils or whatever, like
yeah.
So was Dorothy just like the best name for one of these things?
I guess they did it just because
could they have come up with a better name for it? I mean, I'm not saying that as a neg. I'm saying like it is truly like the best name they could have given this this device is the Dorothy. Yeah. And so the other one was DOT, like had the little dots, like it's an initial stood for something. I forgot what it stands for.
.1 or whatever it was.
Yeah. So did Dorothy, did that acronym stand for something, or did they just call it Dorothy and they were like, yeah, Wizard of Oz, whatever?
I guess. I don't know. There's no dots in between the letters, so I'm guessing they're just like, Dorothy's fine. I don't know. But I would be curious to know what DOT stood for. Did he say?
He said. I can't remember.
Digital orthopathic something telemetry
transmitter.
Something like that.
Yeah. But his were like squares
with cubes. Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know if that's I would think a ball would fly better than a square, but.
Well, I think either one of them would fly in a tornado. I don't know why they had to go and add wings to them to get them to, they weren't having a problem with them flying.
Yeah.
They were having a problem with getting in the path of the tornado.
Yeah. That was, yeah. We got to put it here, and they don't do anything with it.
Yeah.
So we've got, let me think here. So there's what was it, the second tornado they came across? This is where it kind of got a little far-fetched for me, where there's the cyclones that have split. We are picking this movie apart.
The twins?
We got sisters.
Yeah. And the cow flies by.
Yes.
And I tell you, I do love Melissa's phone conversations.
Yes,
they are fantastic in this movie, and they really add something to these scenes, like the seriousness of what's going on. And she's like, "Oh, she didn't just marry you for that, or whatever." Well, not only
that, call you back. I got cows.
Yeah. And the cows are flying by. I don't know. I mean, I guess. I could see that. I'm not a storm expert, but I could see that in, maybe an F4 or something like that, a bigger tornado. But those don't seem that strong. I mean, a cow's a good size weight. I mean, it's going to weigh.
Car.
Yeah, and it's not taking his truck.
Yeah, right. That's right there in front of him. Yeah, it's just it hadn't gotten close enough yet.
Yeah,
well, the tornadoes just kind of testing their boundaries.
The tornadoes were. You notice that to maybe explain some of this. There's two tornadoes that hit the truck at the same time. So they're just in the right spot where the tornadoes are twisting right next to each other.
The suck zone.
But it's the suck zone where it's not like two suck zones hitting against each other, so it's like equalizing out just to spin the truck.
That's right.
Equal.
That's how we explain it.
I thought it was funny whenever they started on that scene, they got the wide shot and they show two tornadoes on either side of the road. And then as they're pulling up, it goes over to the one, I think, on the left. And it splits into two. And they're like, oh, now we've got two. So did it become three, or was there like a little continuity thing there? Is what
maybe it was
two,
it was
then
came back to one, and then
I don't know. Yeah,
I don't know. But it
so they got the cow that goes by, and then they got the second, and then they got the cow that goes by again, or the second cow. She says, it's the second cow, and then he goes, "Oh no, I think that was the same cow." Did we confirm or not? Was that the same cow, or was that a second cow?
I don't think they ever actually say. I like to believe it's the same cow.
Same cow. All right.
Same cow. Now,
you think that cow got set down somewhere gently, or did he just come to hamburger?
I bet he was thrown in the water and drowned. Is what I'm thinking.
No, actually, if you remember, just after that, when they go to Meg's house, and so that thing used to that line used to confuse me all the time, where she says, "Dude, you see my cows out front?" And I'm like, and they're like, "Oh yeah." It's like, "Oh, you got cows now? Did you see my cows out front?" So, like. Was that like an inside joke with the movie, or did the cow land in her yard?
Did you not understand it? So
no,
he's asking, he said, "Dang, Meg, you've got a lot of beef." And which was a question I had, like, why does she have all this food stocked in the house? I guess maybe
they come by all the time.
They come by all the time. But he's like, you got a lot of beef, and she said, "Well, did you see my cows out front?" And he said, "No." And then she's like,
"Oh." He says you got a lot of beef. When did you start raising? Raising cows?
Yes.
And she goes, "You see any cows outside?" And he goes, "Oh."
Yeah, like they're eating all her cows that she had outside is what they're yeah. So, but yeah,
what is it? Dusty says she butchers her own meat. It's extreme or something like that.
Yeah. I love the relationship there that everybody has with Meg. And I like how they're like, we couldn't, Joe, we couldn't help but notice how close we are to Wakita, and she's like, we're not going to go invade my aunt. Then they're all just like, food. And she welcomes them all with just open arms. It's like, it's no inconvenience at all for her to have everybody over there. And I love that.
They're poor researchers. They don't have no money. They have to get grants, so they go over.
They're what they're driving.
She's used to it. They're coming over to get food at her house. So.
That's right.
She's used to it.
Jonas is out there eating like a gourmet meal at
he's
in
it for the
Red Lobster, Chili's, and they're like, "Well, we've got these oatmeal cream pies, but hey, we're close to Wakita. Let's go over here and invade your aunt's house."
Which even to this point, like this point where they're sitting down and they're having dinner and they're chilling and they're talking and they're having a conversation. This whole movie, like it just from the moment it opens up on that tornado, all the way through the whole movie, it's going, it's cranking, it's going. Yeah. There isn't a missed beat. It's just it's going, and it's like a tornado. It's just tearing through, and they keep the pace going pretty good.
Any spare moment of time where you might be silenced or something, they're filling it with script that makes it seem like they just know each other, and we're getting backstory, as like you're part of the chasing team when you're there, like you're just part of it. And you're
like
you're
I'm a member of
this
team. I'm the mute guy that just happens to be on the team. It's like I'm the documentary filmmaker that's doing this. But no, you're right. It is. I never felt like I was ever bored at any moment in this movie. I was never like, I wish this scene would end, or whatever. I was entertained start to finish all the way through, which is really what you want from a movie, right? It doesn't have to be something that's, some epic, thing that pulls at the heartstrings, and this, like, when I watch a movie, yeah, sometimes I want that, but at the core of it, I want to be entertained, and this movie
good
fits
popcorn
that
movie.
bill. Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. It's great.
Yeah.
I'm just
I don't
glad
want to
that
think every hour and a half that I'm watching a movie.
Right. What were you saying, Ian?
I'm just glad it's not. It's a different era of movies, but it's kind of nice not having like in your face, action CGI every 2 minutes. Like with a lot of modern movies we have, like it's nice to have like some character build up, as shallow as it might be. It's still there. And you still feel like you're part of like the chasing team rather than just like I'm watching these guys go do it. You're getting backstory, as subtle as it is. But that's kind of what I appreciate about it.
Like you're talking about like the kind of background they're giving you on characters and everything as it's building up, and we come to really find out that Bill has never really, I guess, fallen out of love with Joe or whatever. But like, I'm watching this and I'm like, gosh, you really got to feel bad for Melissa in this whole thing. Like, she didn't do anything wrong. Like, she met Bill. She fell in love with him under the understanding that he was separated and getting a divorce. And she tags along, and in a day, like, it's literally like a day that she just completely loses everything. And then she's stuck in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
The tornado,
she does.
The tornado not only is chasing after and trying to destroy lives in like a physical way, it's destroying relationships too. It's just
tearing families apart.
It's just tearing everybody apart.
Families apart.
It sucks.
Literally and figuratively.
Yeah. So like when they, when they're having that conversation and he's like, you got me, Joe, and everything. Dusty, you could tell, because everybody can hear what they're saying on that CB. And Dusty's like standing there with Melissa, and he's like just like looking down awkwardly at the ground, like as all this is going on. Like,
should I hold her?
I feel like that's like one of the first times you kind of get a true human moment from the man, where he's just like, okay, this sucks for her. Like, I don't know what to do here. I'm just gonna like stare at the ground and hold the camera.
It's like awkward, like
yeah. But yeah, I felt pretty bad for her.
I was wondering if I should I hold her hand or do something?
Like, what do you do? Like, who hasn't been in that situation? Like, I remember when I used to
wait a minute.
I used to manage. Yeah.
Whatever tornadoes. Been in that situation where a relationship falls apart because of a tornado? No. All right, go on.
No. But no, like, I remember when I was working at the grocery store. I was the assistant manager over there, and like years ago. And I remember one time, like, I walked to the back storeroom, and there was 2 employees. I think one was like going through a breakup or a divorce or something, and they were crying, and the other one was consoling her. And like, I stopped and I see them, and they kind of look and see me, and there's a pause, and I just turned and walked out. Just like, I don't know how to. I kind of feel like I was Dusty in that situation. Like, what do? You're just like, I don't want to be here.
Or do you think maybe he was biding his time and he's wondering, okay, at what point can I ask for her number? At what point is it too soon?
That is the character. Yes, that's what he was wanting. I'm going to choose to believe that story. I like that.
Show her around his Barnburner. You want to see my music videos?
That's right. Listen, look at all these music videos I've got. So we've got the drive-in scene that I remember was like one of the showcases in the trailers when The Shining is playing, and Jack is just like hacking, on the door with the axe, and the tornado just is like ripping away the screen.
That screen, yeah.
I just think that, I mean, even today watching it, I'm like, that's good cinematography. Like, that is a good shot right there. It's just, I don't know. I really liked it. And I like that whole scene, really, you know?
Yeah.
Joe's like finally signing the divorce paperwork. And then at the same time, like Melissa's calling it off with Bill. And then, like, oh, this sucks.
He lost both of them.
Yeah. And then that tornado hits, and like they're trying to. I don't know. You kind of see where, it is. It's like terrifying. Like they're these hardened storm chasers, but they're like when they're confronted with something like head on, they're like
out of their control.
Yeah. And they're
they didn't have anybody watching like the whole time. They've got somebody on the radio and tuned into. What is it, NATO, or not NATO, but the National Weather Services
NOAA,
or whatever the whole time. Yeah. And listening to and monitoring the weather. They didn't see this coming at all.
Right.
They've predicted every other tornado up to now, and they didn't see this one coming.
If Dusty wouldn't have had Eric Clapton on the TV screens, he could have had the radar showing up there of where it was going. But what I didn't understand, so they're down in the pit at the in that
mechanic
shop, and the compressed air hose starts, it's just going everywhere, and I can't remember what the guy's name is, but like he just reaches out and grabs it. It's like it's not hurting anybody, but he grabs it to almost show off, and he's like, I got it.
Well, I think it had like the little metal end on it, and they were afraid of it maybe hitting somebody.
Oh, I see.
Flipping around and hitting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be my guess. That's why I always assumed that he went and grabbed it. I don't know who that guy's name is either.
They called him Preacher.
Was it Preacher?
Oh, okay.
That they called?
Just called him
Yeah.
Preacher.
Yeah, because
But
he was always
trying to
listening
figure
to
out
like
what
the
his
classical
purpose
music.
was.
Yeah, I don't know what he was listening to classic music. I don't know what his purpose was. I don't know what he was.
Road support.
Yeah. Because I mean, we had I can't remember what his name was, but he was in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. He's the one that's asking
Alan
Megan.
Rook?
Yes, and he's like their map guy. And he kind of
And
directs.
he's got that assistant or whatever driving.
Yes.
While he's reading the maps.
Yep.
So
Actually, you know what? I think Preacher was wasn't he like their mechanic? Like he at one point he was like, "Let me show you how to do whatever on like one of the cars or something like that."
Oh, maybe so. I think
I think that might have been his thing.
Okay.
Well, I was going to say,
I
like,
think.
you were going back to the maps guy. I know they're having they're either remaking the film or whatever. They're doing a brand new one or whatever that's coming out here. I'm just imagining if they were trying to recreate like the same cast, like today, like you have a whole vehicle dedicated to maps. Whenever you can just bring that down to like one character sitting in a back seat with like Google Maps on their phone, just like I can imagine
Everybody's got it on their phone. They've got it placed up on the windshield. Like that guy's job's obsolete. He doesn't have a job anymore.
I guarantee I can almost guarantee that they'll have a scene in the new one where the cell towers go down and they have to have somebody reading a physical map.
Oh, yeah.
They're gonna
and he comes out from the trees.
He's from retirement.
Comes out of retirement.
Or it's his son.
Yeah.
My dad used to show me maps.
Yeah. And he taught me to roll them, not fold them.
All right, Bunny.
And I don't know. I really don't know anything. I haven't looked into anything about this new movie. Is it supposed to be a sequel? Is it like a remake?
I can't tell exactly from the trailers if it's supposed to be a
Yeah.
direct sequel. I think it's I do remember in the trailer they had one of the Dorothys, so like they were using or something like that. So I think the main guy is supposed to be Joe and Bill's son. I think
that would make sense. Yeah. Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure. Like I said, I've seen that. Like, I've seen one trailer for it, I think, and of course, I know what's coming out, but I just hadn't really dived that deep into it to see exactly.
And did they nail it with the title, Twisters? Is that like the perfect sequel title?
I don't know. Like, it's better than like Twister 2. Like, how would that?
The revenge.
Twister 2.
Yeah.
More twisters, you know?
Yeah. Just add an S on it. I don't know. We don't need creativity here. We'll just throw an S on the end of it.
My God.
Twister
Yep.
F2.
Twister F2. Yeah. It's just little micro bursts everywhere that they're chasing. So, I want to discuss. There was a lot of unrealistic things. Like, we've already hit on some of them.
Oh, yeah.
In the movie. But I want to know what your all's favorite unrealistic thing was in the movie. So I'll go first. Kind of break the ice out.
Yeah.
Them driving through the house when it rolled over on the road.
Oh,
and
yeah.
there's like a 3-foot gap between the street and the side of the window, and Bill nails that. And they're like driving through the house and out the other end. Now, it was fun to watch, but I'm like, there's no way. There's no way.
How about
I think, you go ahead.
How about, well, there were a few of them, but let's say, how about pulling up all those combines and then dropping them like systematically right kind of where they were driving
Down the road.
down the road. And is it too early to talk about an error in the film right here?
Oh, no, go for it.
No.
Where if you notice, it's pretty obvious. It's probably one of those things where they notice and they're like, well, we can't do anything about that, so we'll just leave it. You know, they're driving, the combine comes down, and the person who's driving the car, the arm of the combine hits the passenger side windshield and breaks it.
Yeah.
And immediately in the next clip, like, the window is fixed.
Fixed.
So it's just kind of like one of those obvious errors that they just couldn't really do anything about. So,
Yeah.
but they were running out of time.
I think for me, it's just generally the how close they're getting to the tornado and not even being blown around much. Like that scene where they get the first Dorothy down off the back of the truck, and the tornado's like barreling down on them, and they reverse the truck for what, 100 yards maybe, and they're clear of it finally. Yeah. Which,
but I mean, like you're saying, they drive far away from it. Well, far away in air quotes.
Yeah.
And then they're like, okay, we got to drop Dorothy. And then they're mad that it's not picking it up. I'm like, well, you've gotten farther away from this thing.
This device that they have to deploy in the middle of a tornado has like 900 switches that they have to like toggle off.
Straps.
Why couldn't they just put all that to one master switch? Just one button or one switch, you hit it and it's good to go.
They could drive a tailgateless truck, and they have a button that it draws a little ramp down. It slides down the ramp.
Put it on
flips
wheels.
On. Yep. And there you go.
Good to go.
And you're out of there. But no, they're using Bill's truck which I loved. I loved after Joe's truck gets destroyed, and she kicks out the window, when she's pulling stuff out of her
insurance
truck.
on this?
Yeah, liability only. she convinces
Which, on
him,
a new truck, he's only got liability insurance? That's your mistake, dude.
Oh yeah.
I want to know what they did with the camper shell. They're in the middle of nowhere, and where'd they put the camper shell on the back of the truck?
Oh, that's
I bet they just dumped it.
They probably did. Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
My truck's probably going to get destroyed today, so we're just going to throw out the camper
I mean,
shell.
how much did Dodge pay to get their truck put in this ad? I mean, this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Because that thing is shown so much.
Oh, yeah.
It is definitely an ad for that truck. I remember wanting that truck after watching this movie.
Yeah. It is. Joe says it's a pretty truck, and it is a pretty truck. It is a pretty truck.
That's second generation Ram. Yeah. It's a classic.
Yeah.
Now it's a classic.
Yeah, but boy,
that Jeep was nice too.
I know.
I love that Jeep. I loved it.
Yeah.
So Jonas and his driver, I can't remember his name, which that guy didn't seem like that bad of a guy, because he's constantly like,
No.
like maybe we should
go
stop
help
and help him, you know? Yeah, no, just keep going. So they're driving to go deploy their dot, and, you know, Bill and Joe are trying to get him to stop because they can somehow see that the tornado is going to shift or whatever.
Bill's the tornado whisperer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And so clearly he doesn't, you know, or they don't stop, and he tells his driver to keep on going. He gets them both killed. The film crew, their crew is sitting back there. It cuts to them. They're still recording, watching this truck get picked up and thrown into the ground and blown up. And then it cuts to... Doesn't it cut to, like, our team, our crew, and Dusty's, like, smiling or something? Do you remember that?
No. I don't remember if Dusty was smiling. I just remember them going, ooh.
Yeah. That's it, yeah. And I'm like, what is going on? Especially with Jonas's crew. Like, if like you guys are dying, I'm not going to sit there and continue to record.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. This whole thing.
Well, that's his job.
They're probably just thinking, you know, well, if we can't make it as storm chasers, at least maybe we can get some money for good reality TV, you know, something like that.
We're in it for the money, not the science.
Was it the Phases of Death videos they used to have? The VHSs you could get?
Yeah, I thought that was just, I don't know, that was something else. But
yeah,
like,
I was thinking that too when I was watching it. Was just like, their main leaders of their crew are flying around to their death, and they're just sitting there filming it like it's just part of the action, you know. That's part of
that poor driver, like, he gets a whole, like,
decapitated
house antenna thrown through his chest.
He's definitely not surviving.
No.
And then you think, well, maybe the other guy could survive, and then the car explodes.
Yeah. And, like, how cartoonish is that? Like, you know, it's not, like, the car isn't just thrown and crushed. Like, It's like, this thing was full of, like, 500 pounds of C4.
Yeah.
When it hits the ground and explodes.
They just filled the tank.
That's a good point, because normally... like, vehicles don't really just explode if they're, like, thrown down or rolled or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, but that thing went up, so. What about the...
several of them did.
What about the fuel tanker? Like, the fuel tanker gets pulled up is, like, floating around in this tornado, and then somehow it, like... It's being thrown over on its side, but it's just like sliding on one side, but half of it's in the air, but it's sliding over the course of like maybe a football field, and then somehow the front of the truck lifts up enough to bump your vehicle off a log, and suddenly like, and then when they take off, like they're like going forward. And from what the angle that they take off, like the truck was supposed to be going behind them, but somehow, surprisingly, it's in front of them when they take off. And there's like a whole bunch of things about that scene that are kind of like, well, we know what you were going for, but it was just a little bit confusing.
And it explodes, and they drive through the debris, like that, through where the tank is at. Like, it's just, they drive right through.
Joe and Bill, did you see that explosion? Yeah, we saw it.
Yeah, we saw it. I remember like that happened, and Mindy was like, "There's no way." But then, like, they're you know, they go and they finally like they sacrifice Bill's ram to deploy Dorothy, which kudos to him for just being like, all right. Which I guess, you know, really. Maybe at that point he's in it for the money because he knows he's going to be able to have the money to buy that truck back.
I think he thought he could take out the tornado. He really thought he could take out that tornado.
So they're sitting there and they're watching it, and then the tornado, of course, turns into a bad guy again, and it shifts and it's like chasing them
indigestion
onto this farm.
into a scene from a horror movie.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
But they're like, Joe's like, who are these people? Like, Joe, your father was a farmer. You grew up in Oklahoma. You know that this guy raises livestock, and he's got to have this equipment to, take care of his livestock, take care of his fields. Like, who is
Farmers
he?
don't
He's
throw
a farmer.
anything away either.
Yeah, no. And, but yeah, it just astonished me how, like, the tornado is like it. Like, they've been after them this whole movie, but this tornado is like, it's out for blood. Like, it's like, you have foiled my friends. You're not foiling me. And it's like, it's chasing them. And then they get into this shack and use a leather strap to keep themselves from being sucked up inside this thing.
Yeah, I'm surprised that was another one where I was like, now how did they not just like, how did it not take them or cut them in half or sustain any damage?
Or they get
At
hit by
least
some
some debris, right?
yeah, something, nothing.
Well, you
Perfectly
saw
fine.
it when they were in the
They
barn. You see that shoot that board through the window and it just sticks into the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And like you're sitting in the middle of a tornado with debris flying all around you at 300 miles an hour. It's like, how did you not just get like impaled with something?
which okay, so before we carry on, while we're still kind of on the subject of the tornado being a villain, there was one other thing I wanted to point out. Whenever you brought up, did you notice that so and so was who was it? Michael Crichton was credited with his writer.
Mm-hmm.
Did you notice who was credited as a producer?
No, who was in there?
Steven Spielberg.
Oh, that's right. I did know that.
So
I didn't see it, but I did know that.
I
Yeah.
could totally see this movie being pitched as, okay, Jaws with tornadoes.
Yes.
Which is maybe where we got Sharknado from.
That could be. What's that?
Oh my
Spielberg
gosh.
secretly wrote that movie under like an alias. So I'm wondering, like, after all this, like, clearly Bill and Joe are back together. They're still arguing about who's going to be in charge of the lab. But
6 months. I give it 6 months.
I know. I'm like, do they remain together or do they finally divorce?
Nope.
Well,
I think-
apparently with the new movie coming out, if it's their son, they at
That's
least
true.
stay together long enough to conceive a child.
Well, I was looking at the credits for the new movie, and that character doesn't have the same last name. So I
Oh,
don't,
okay.
unless he took like his mom. No, because she's got. Well, no, she's Harding in there. I don't know what her original last name was. So unless like he took her maiden name,
Yeah,
I don't think
yeah.
that's how it goes down. I think it is like a whole new crew. I
Yeah.
don't know that they'll have anybody from the old movie in it,
Yeah, yeah.
which might be smart.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think if Paxton was still alive, I think they could have put Paxton in there and it would have been okay. But
Like in a professor teacher type
yeah,
role.
yeah. I mean, gosh, what a loss that was. I love Bill Paxton.
He was
It's
in a lot of good stuff.
He was.
Yeah.
He was good. Like I cannot. I'm sure if I really thought about it, maybe I could. But I cannot think of a movie off the top of my head that he was in that I did not like. I don't know. And
Wasn't he the only
discussed
one?
it in our-
Wasn't he the only one that's been killed by an alien, a Terminator, and a Predator?
Yeah, we discussed that in our Terminator episode. Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's
the
that's
ending,
Twister.
Well, the ending credits of that. You remember? I don't know if you noticed this or not, but I'm kind of amazed. Whenever they're at the very end, whenever they're like, "Oh, we got to run the lab and everything." Well, they take like 2 minutes, and they're running the credits, but the camera is like going from the ground up to the sky, and it's like they're doing a back view of like the house that was destroyed or the farm that was destroyed. And then if you look back behind in the view, you have this like probably
Finger of
half a
God.
mile wide swath of like where it looks like an actual tornado went through there. Whatever they did to make that destruction seem like realistic, they did a really good job, because they even went so far as to like, to destroy the landscape around it to make it look like there was a big destruction there, which I think is pretty cool that they went ahead and tried to do that, so you keep it realistic.
All right, so you said you hesitate to find one bad Bill Paxton movie,
Yeah.
or one
Tell
that
me
you
which
wouldn't
one.
want to watch.
Let's hear it.
Titanic.
Oh shoot, he wasn't that.
Oh yeah.
You know what though? I'll say this. I would watch a movie of Bill Paxton in a submarine going down and exploring the Titanic. That's all the movie is. It's him from the beginning to the end. It's him getting in the sub with his like two other people, and it's the 2 hours it takes to get down. And then it's him down there for another hour looking at everything, taking pictures, talking about, oh, look at this, or, let's see if we can't find the heart of the ocean, and this and that. And, and then he's like, all right, let's go back up. You guys hungry? I want some dinner. They're like, yeah. And then it's another 2 hours of them going back up. They get on board. They're having a good time. They're laughing.
He
They go to
pockets the
sleep.
jewel. Sorry, lady, we couldn't find it.
That's right. And that
Secretly,
I would watch
he's the
that
villain.
movie. Yeah, that's right. I'd watch that movie.
He's a tomb raider or a thief. Or what do you call it? Like a archaeologist thief or something.
Yeah. He's Sean Bean in National Treasure.
There you go. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
treasure hunter.
Yeah.
I'm surprised. I'm
ahead.
surprised that he didn't have any like. I'm trying to think of like good one-liners, like Bill Paxton's one-liner in like Aliens, like "Game over, man." That's like stuff like that. Like he just has like these cool one-liners. And I remember like I'm trying to think. I love his character in True Lies, where he has that small part as the sleazy guy. Oh my gosh, he does he just is perfect at it.
Well, and that's
great.
he liked, like he's said that he liked playing those just slimy characters. He's just something that he really enjoyed doing, and it comes through on any of those. Like Weird Science, he's like that sleazy brother, and he just excelled at stuff like that. And Terminator, he's at that punk, and he's got like the blue spiky hair and everything. It's just it's great. He's definitely missed in the movie world
For sure.
But
Well, before we move on, or we start to wrap this up, in my research for this movie, did you know? Now, this might be one that you're interested in after The Burbs. There was another movie called Twister that came out in 1989, and it stars Harry Dean Stanton, Crispin Glover, Dylan McDermott, and Tim Robbins is in it. Like, there's a few people that are in this movie, and it's you got to look up the trailer. It is the most bizarre looking movie. It is a delusional and spoiled girl and her eccentric brother decide to track down and meet their estranged mother, all while the drama of dysfunctional relationships and disastrous weather continues around them, and their dark family secrets ensue. Like, it's just like the most bizarre looking movie.
it's like they had an idea for like 3 movies, and
Absolutely.
the writers could not decide, like, we need to do, this is the kind of movie we need to make. No, we need to make this. And finally the producer's like, we're putting them all together. So we're gonna do.
And the trailer for it looks like it never made it past made for TV. Like, there's probably maybe a VHS of it out there, but it was definitely never put on DVD or anything else. Like, it is pretty rough.
Well, that's
Pretty
like
rough.
with like Crispin Glover, like I believe that, because like he he like
He picked some strange ones.
he like wrecked his career after he didn't do Back to the Future 2. Like he refused
But
to
like,
do it.
but he set a really good precedent for using likeness in
that's true.
Future movies, which it sacrificed his career because he was blacklisted after that. So this movie had an estimated $92 million budget as well, and grossed. Are you ready?
Let's hear.
This is the antithesis of the opposite. It grossed $33,000.
Oh my gosh!
So we got both sides
That's
of it with
the
Twister.
worst I've heard. That's
Yes.
so bad. That's so bad.
Imagine the studio taking a 91 point whatever $1 million bath.
So could you imagine the actors like? So what am I getting paid on this now? What do we make? $10, you know, just
Checks in the mail.
oh my God.
Man,
Oh shoot,
that's a lot of money just gone.
Host.
Anyways,
And I bet the people that went to the $33,000 that people went to spent to go and buy it, to watch that movie, they probably felt like they were shortchanged.
33,000. It was probably more like 1,000 people. Well, 10,000 people. Like like $3 a ticket back then, maybe.
Yeah, 10,000 people.
That's insane.
Could you imagine being the lucky person to watch that at the theaters?
Oh, that might have been just all they paid on cable to run it.
It could be. Yeah. Wow, that's rough. That's rough. Yeah, that's definitely the opposite.
Yes.
So
It's the opposite of a blockbuster.
yeah. So
Yeah,
my question. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, speaking of which, whenever I watched this movie, there was a tornado that touched down the town north of us.
Like the other
Yeah.
day when you were watching this?
Like last weekend whenever I watched it.
Oh, wow.
Or this last weekend, this tornado touched down just north of us. So I thought, I got done watching the movie. I come downstairs and my wife's like, "Yeah, there's a tornado on the ground just north of us." I was like, "Oh crap!"
It's a sign. Good thing I now have knowledge from Bill how to outsmart
That's right.
this thing.
I can see it coming.
Yeah, that's right. It's just, you're out there.
Firing my
You're out
truck.
there, like standing in the front lawn, and she's like, "What are you doing?" Well, I'm watching to see if it's going to turn our way or not. So.
Right?
All right. So the question I asked at the beginning of the episode, what was your biggest fear as a child? Do you have any answers for that?
I think my biggest fear as a child growing up was, man, I'm having a hard time remembering exactly. I know I was like afraid of like the dark and being
Classic.
alone. But nothing really stands out as like a paralyzing fear or
Okay.
like an irrational fear or anything like that. I think I had pretty standard fears. I still have like heights, but I think heights developed. I don't think I was afraid of heights as much as a kid, but it's something that developed as I grew up. And like now for sure, like really confined spaces. Like I can't do confined spaces. Like I see like the shows where like somebody like is crawling through like whenever I watch Shawshank now and he's at the very end and he's like worming his way through the sewer pipe, that gives me the heebie-jeebies. I can't.
So you know what does that for me? The scene in Aliens when Bishop gets inside that tunnel and they seal him in and he's crawling through that small tunnel all the way over to like the other outpost so he can get a signal out. I get the same feeling. Like when I watch that, I'm like, oh no, there's no way I could be sealed in a tunnel that small.
Or like we get on an airplane, and if I can't stretch my feet out in front of me, for some reason that just like it really starts to bother me.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
What about you, Ian?
Oh, dolls.
Really?
We have this thing if we go into like antique. We go to flea markets and stuff, and one of the things that we do is I like to take pictures of creepy dolls because I don't want to be around them. But
You've sent me some of those pictures.
but I tell you what, if you're somebody who has a bunch of dolls in their house, like really wonder what's wrong with you. You know, it's like not only they creep me out, anything that like is supposed to look human. You know, like that creeps me out. I don't want to be around it. Get it away from me.
Yeah.
That's probably one of my bigger fears.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. So mine was this movie kind of. Well, it inspired it really. Was a tornado. I was terrified of tornadoes as a kid. Anytime it would thunderstorm or rain really hard, I just knew there was going to be a tornado. And so this movie came out, and I don't know if you remember the made-for-television movie Night of the Twisters. That came out around the same time. And I remember I had both of these. Like, I think Dad had got me this movie, got Twister. I had that on VHS. And then I had recorded Night of the Twisters. And I would watch those constantly. Like
immersion therapy?
Oh, yeah. I would watch them constantly. But I was terrified, like at night, especially when I would hear the thunder and the lightning and it'd be raining really hard. I'm like, there's going to be a tornado. There's going to be a tornado. I remember like laying there praying, please don't let there be a tornado. Please don't let there be a tornado. And one night, so Derek, you remember our bedroom that was downstairs in Dad's house. I'm laying down there. And one night, like 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm like wide awake because it's thunderstorming, the rain's pounding, and then the freaking sirens go off. And I remember like, I like sat up in bed. I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And I'm waiting for Dad to come downstairs, and he's not coming. And I'm like, and like I went upstairs and got him, and he kind of wakes up. He's like, what's the matter? I said, the sirens are going off. He's like, oh, okay. He's like, he like nudged Pam, and then like he goes downstairs, and I'm sitting in the living room with him, and he's got the TV turned on, and he's watching, you know, and sure enough, we're in a tornado warning. But it's like, so like our community where I live at is like smack dab in the middle of the county, and I think the tornado was like on the south end of the county. Yeah. So anytime it's in the county, they have to. If you're not familiar with tornado warnings, if it's in your county, they have to sound the sirens for the whole county. And
not down here.
They don't do that down there?
Here. Not
it's
down
by
here
city.
Either.
Is it really? Here, yeah. Well, up here, they do it the whole county. Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't know. Well, if, maybe my county has that advanced warning system that they've been trying to do in this movie. But anyway, so like I remember Dad going outside, and he's like, you know how Midwest dads do. You go out,
tornado whispered it.
Oh yeah, you look at the sky and everything, and I'm out there with him, and we're looking. And of course, it's dark.
It's like 1 o'clock in the morning. You can't see anything.
Yeah, you can't see anything, but Dad's looking, and then it finally, like, the sirens go off, and he's like, okay, we're okay. And he shuts the TV off, and he has me go to bed, and as he's walking up the stairs, because, the stairs, you could see him at the time, before he remodeled that room, and I'm laying in bed, and Dad's like, he looks at me, he's like, if the sirens go off again, come get me. And he goes upstairs and goes to bed, and I'm like, what? So now I'm on
try
watch.
And get some sleep.
Scared to death that whole night.
What grade were you in, you think?
Oh, man, probably like 3rd or 4th grade. So.
Perfectly impressionable
let's see,
age.
this is 96, so I would have been... I'd have been about 10.
Probably like 97, 98 whenever it happened.
Yeah. But, oh, man, I'll never forget that. And that was my biggest fear as a kid, was dang tornadoes. But now they...
Well, let me
they go
ask,
off,
was Allie born yet at this point?
No, I don't.
So then it would be before 97.
Yeah, I don't know. Whenever. Well, I guess this was released in May. When I don't know when the VHS came out of it.
6 months after.
Okay. Oh yeah. Then yeah, it probably would have been. Yeah, it would have been. Yeah, because I'm sure Pam was probably pregnant with her, but I don't remember. Well,
It was probably
No.
that summer.
maybe. Yeah. I mean, I wasn't in that bedroom upstairs. I was downstairs, so they must have at least been
then-
planning for her because they put
Yeah.
her in that bedroom across from theirs.
Yeah. Oh, it may
So-
have been like, if you were in school, it may have been like before, she was born, but like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Cause she. Yeah. Yeah.
they were pregnant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because tornado season would be like, what, March, April?
Yeah. Well, and then you go in the fall too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. But, anyway, that was a fun night. I'll never forget Dad telling me that. And I'll just look out for him again. Let me know. You're the man of the house now, son.
I'm going to put you on tornado duty.
Yeah. That'll help him sleep.
Well, me and a friend a friend of mine who's went to high school with, he now does meteorology, but we used to kind of do a little storm chasing and stuff. And I used to have the camcorder a little bit, and we'd drive around, and if there was a storm coming, and go check it out and everything. So I've never really been scared of them. I've just kind of been excited by it, interested by it, fascinated by it. Like I've always been I used to watch the Weather Channel for fun, just like this is like, I know it kind of insane, but I used to kind of like watch the Weather Channel just for the heck of it. And, but anyway, I was going to say is like one of the funniest lines in the movie, not really the funniest, but like, when they say at the end, he's going to punch the core. He's going to punch the core at the end. When they're going after the he's punching the core. It just cracks me up.
Yeah.
So maybe
Got
your
to fight
dad
back
was
against
one-
that tornado.
That's right. That's right.
Oh, before we go, I forgot to mention next week we'll be reviewing our movie. Will be Beverly Hills Cop. That's going to continue our summer blockbuster. Grouping? No, not grouping. What do I call
Rewind?
this?
Was it?
Rewind? Yeah, summer blockbuster.
We'll get
rewind.
this down. At
We'll
some
get it.
point.
We'll get it at some point. Yeah, Beverly Hills Cop. That'll be our next one. Which, after doing a little research, I realize is not a summer movie, but we'll cover that when we come to
Oh
it.
wow. Okay.
So next week, Beverly Hills Cop. Looking forward to it.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Ian, thank you for being on the show with us. It was a lot of fun talking to you about Twister. I really enjoyed it.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've watched it a lot. Know quite a bit about it. So.
Yeah, you do. You even got to storm chase with him one time. So.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Never
Well,
actually seen a
we'll
real
see
Twister,
y'all.
but
What's that?
never actually seen a real Twister, but I've come close.
Yeah. There you go.
What's the closest? So you've never seen a real one? Have you come that close to one, Ryan? What's the closest you've come to one? Is it that night?
I've never. Well, no, maybe I have seen. I've seen like a funnel cloud. That's about it.
Okay. So you
Yeah,
got a little visual confirmation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right,
But that's it. That's it. Yeah. You would think around here we'd see a few more, but
Yeah. I mean, they've always come close. I've never. I mean, Allison says we saw one one day whenever we were outside of a Buc-ee's, but I couldn't make heads or tails of it.
she says we saw it. Like, okay, well, we did. If you say it, we did.
Sirens were going off and everybody was
Yeah.
freaking out, but I couldn't make heads or tails of where the tornado was. So maybe I couldn't make it out.
Yeah.
It may have been one of those really wide ones.
Interesting story, really quick. Last month, I have to go from one school to the other during the day, like in the afternoon, and early, like I think it was like late April. I was driving, it's like 1:30 or something in the afternoon, and I drive like 5 miles to the other school where I teach, and so I'm like, I leave school and I look out to the west, and I'm like, man, those clouds are kind of dark, and I was like, those clouds are kind of hanging down. I wonder if there's like it couldn't be a tornado. I mean, that almost looks like it could drop a tornado. And so I was driving that direction. And I knew there was some storms, but there wasn't any like warnings or anything. Well, by the time I got to the other school, I got inside and sat down below, did some work, and pretty soon over the intercom, like, we need everybody to go in the storm shelter. There's a tornado warning. And come to find out, that was exactly where I was looking at. It was like 10 miles away. And so they went, so I was like right on, and come to find out that they didn't even do the warnings until like 20 minutes after the storm, the tornado had been down, destroying stuff. It was like, it was one of those odd things around here that it was kind of talked about, like, so like it was kind of unexpected, and you know, it was just kind of weird. But it was just kind of funny that, like, I knew it was going on without, you know, knowing it was
without
going
knowing
on,
it was
so.
going on. Yeah. That's rural
warning,
America for you.
or a warning that turned into a watch.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, we've reached another checkpoint, my friends. Sharing is caring. Reviews help a lot, and keep those tokens ready. Oh, and no, that was not the same token. That was a different token. Until next time.
We'll see you later. This Podcast Takes Tokens is a Clay Street production. So, Ian, you have some photos of when you and I were storm chasing with the Twister crew. If you'd like to show those. Well, if you're watching on the YouTube stream of this, then you'll be able to see these. If not, we'll kind of describe them to you. And we'll put them in the show notes so you can kind of check these out. But oh yeah, there's one where we were eating. we were really wanting food.
Yeah, we were really wanting some food
from Aunt Mag's.
We were really hungry. It was a kind of a rough day. We were chasing.
It was.
Here I
it
am
was.
in the back
Yeah.
seat. You're kind of looking at those Mamadas clouds. Take a look at them.
Got Bill and Joe there in the front seat, and Ian's sitting in the back. This must have been after Melissa had left. Oh yeah, there's us hanging out with
We're just
Dusty.
chilling out. You ask how hanging out with Dusty was. Well, he's a little crazy.
Got the Barnburner there. I'm leaning against it, and you know,
Yeah. Weren't you
he
laughing
was
at-
just being so funny.
Yeah, you were laughing at a couple of his jokes, weren't you? He was just pretty fun to be around, I guess.
Yeah.
He's explaining the suck zone there, right?
That's right. Yeah. That's right. That's right.
The extreme.
The extreme. The extreme. Yeah.
Oh, they're here. I'm pointing something out to Bill. There.
Oh yeah. I see that. Yeah, you guys are looking at the clouds there.
You know, I have really got to see it. You know, I'm kind of gotten to where I know what a storm's thinking. You know, I learned from the best. And then, oh yeah,
What else we got here?
Trying to zoom in here.
Kind of get that one bigger.
This one
here.
was, I don't know what you're talking about as far as like being realistic as far as being out close to a tornado. I mean, I was able to run. We were able to kind of outrun this thing. He was really close, but we got away from it, you know.
Keep up with Joe. So anybody listening, so Ian and I a couple years ago, we went in my backyard and we took a bunch of photos. And Ian went in and superimposed us into a bunch of scenes from Twister.
This is probably the best one. I feel like one of the best ones.
That one, yeah. Well, we're sitting there with Dusty, yeah. So we'll throw those in the show notes, and you can check those out, and hopefully you'll get a kick out of them like we did. But anyway, that was a fun day. I think we posted those on Facebook, like we had actually went and chased with them that day, and we're like, we can't believe all the tornadoes we saw.
Active storm season.
Yeah.